welcome to Different Gravy, not just another Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm one of the hosts, Richard Miller, and my co-host, well, after last week's filthy T-shirt-based smut, he's promised to be better this week. And like the ground staff at S6, to do better. But like the turf at Hillsborough, let's be honest, it's not going to be that much better. A leopard can't change his spots, and he, and I for that matter, can't stop finding the thought of a splooge-stained topped pretty chuckle-worthy. He's your friend of mine, Dirty Dr. Luke Leddell. How are you doing today, Luke?
I'm very good. Still dirty, but, dirty with a smile on my face.
Ah, a soiled smile on your face.
A knowing smug perv, Luke Leddell.
I was working on an intro that involved the age of Chris Gunter, and then I was just shocked and surprised to find that he's only 32 years of age. He seems to have been around for absolutely forever, Chris Gunter.
Is that Chris Gunter who's at Charlton?
Chris Gunter who's at Charlton, yeah.
Okay, I didn't realise he was there, so that's interesting.
Yeah, I was going to make a comment about, he's here despite the protestations of his body and all advice to the contrary, still plugging away. But just 32, which is perfectly reasonable.
I guess
and
so.
I guess it means he's probably been playing professional football since he was 12 to account for just how long I've been aware of him as a being. But how are you? Are you well?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. It's been a fun week, and even though only one game of Sheffield Wednesday football to talk about, which kind of makes me feel a bit starved in a weird way, Yeah,
it's strange, isn't it? We did sort of jokingly comment in passing that not having the game means we can't lose the game. The Alan Irvine school of football management, but it's a bit. It's also the fact that we know at some point we're going to have to pay the piper and play all these games. And it'd be nice to play games while we're in good form and maybe down the road that we won't be in quite such fine fettle. But, hopefully not. Hopefully we'll maintain this good form for a good while yet. But how are you enjoying World War III? How are you rating it so far?
I haven't seen other World Wars in the flesh, IRL.
No.
To see it. Let me wait till it comes out on DVD with the Ken Burns commentary, and then I'll get back to you then. Whenever it's over, I guess.
Yeah. No, it's good. We shouldn't really talk about that, really. Let's keep this a conflict-free zone. So we had our midweek game called off. It's sort of news, but also not really news. And
now scheduled for the last Tuesday in April, so the last midweek game now before the end of the regular season. Or I say that because I don't know. Maybe there could be more postponed games in the future.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Because that's the thing. So obviously today's game's on, which is great. I did double check a couple of times on my journey over when I was stopped at traffic lights and things, just double check. But the game was on. The pitch looking a bit better, I presume, than the waterlogged state it was in. Obviously helped by the fact that there was no rain or little rain in the lead up to this game, and they were even watering the pitch, which I thought was a bit of hubris on the part of the ground staff. We've got this so dry, we now actually need to top it up. But it's not looking good, is it? It's not, particularly under the south stand, as we talked about. There's a long-standing problem of it not getting enough sun, and that particularly the middle of that stand, but pretty much all the way to the edge of the pitch on both ends. It's pretty sandy, it's pretty muddy, and pretty knobbly-bobbly for the players as well. There was one point in today's game where Jack Hunt, I'm sure, had the ball and was very ready to control the ball, and it just sort of jumped about 1.5 feet over his foot. There wasn't too many of those incidents, but obviously you can tell it's going to play a part. It's going to be a factor in the season as we go along, because it's not going to get much better, I wouldn't have thought. Anyway, Luke loves lineups.
Luke loves lineups, and we come into this with 3 changes coming into this, so it's kind of largely, interestingly, kind of taking a lot of the notes of that kind of last time out substitution to change the game. So we see Patterson and Berahino up top. The only thing I guess that's kind of different from that, which is a little bit interesting, is Hutchinson's back in the mix. Drafted back in, taking part of replacing Kieran Brennan, who, I don't know. I feel like from that last episode, I mean, we won. We had a jovial, fun time. We got very, very silly, and so we were enjoying ourselves. I felt that Kieran Brennan was a bit of a minor casualty from that.
A little bit, yes, yeah, because Gibson came on at his expense and did seem to change things around a fair amount. I was a little bit surprised not to see him.
Yes.
Him start in the same way. He had such an impact in the same way that the 2 strikers had. I was a little bit surprised not to see him rewarded for that, but maybe we'll see that over time. He sort of slowly gets mixed in.
I mean, I wonder, for the sake of we're people who enjoy football, but we are not football people. So I wonder if there's something that happens in the game where, in terms of kind of long-term fitness, if you've got a player like Hutchinson who has a minor knock that you don't want to risk it, he's probably got enough kind of topped-up fitness you know, in the bank to kind of withdraw from for another game of football. So maybe that's the reason why. But I was a little bit disappointed not to see Gibson instead of Hutchinson. No offense to Hutchinson, I just felt that Gibson was fantastic in his cameo role last week.
Well, again, it was that balance to things, wasn't it? Because it seemed to get quite a lot out of Palmer in that he was able to put those deep crosses in from the right-hand side, and then Gibson was a threat himself from the left-hand side. So, yeah, I'm surprised Moore didn't go along with that. But then, I suppose it's tricky, isn't it? Because you don't want, obviously, Story, you feel like he's going to be a fixture because he's so solid. And then Palmer's very, very good himself. So, I think avoiding maybe a tricky decision slightly by just going with Hutch and leaving Gibson on the bench. But a good looking team. How do you? I mean, with Berahino, we're now kind of in this odd no man's land kind of thing. Of is he now going to be good-ish, or is he still the rubbish guy and he just did one good thing, had one good game? He said because he started off well enough. His first game for Wednesday was very good and he got that goal, and then there was just nothing for so long. So I thought, like, seeing him line up again, I was slightly surprised, but then you want to reward someone for going and grabbing a goal, so decisions that make sense. There's a you can see the three thoughts.
I think in the nature of that, and I mean, still was, we heard in kind of mini news, kind of building and coming into this game that, the disappointing thing is that still no Lee Gregory. Still, apparently he's had a minor setback, but minor setback spoken with such. I don't know with Darren Moore at times. Like, I don't know if sometimes. Maybe I don't know. I guess he strikes me as quite an optimistic, positive character, which is fantastic. But it feels weird when he talks about injuries so kind of in such a nonplus way.
Yeah.
That I don't know really what the true severity of things are with injuries.
I wonder if part of that though is because we've had enough managers that do the thing of like, I don't want to make excuses, but we've got X, Y, and Z. And I wonder if, because he keeps talking about instilling a culture, and I wonder if part of that is, I'm just going to talk very, very matter-of-factly about injuries. I'm not going to sigh and huff about it, or it's just going to be, it's a fact of life. People get injured. We've got enough to keep working, and we won't moan about it. We won't give ourselves the excuse of of injuries, really. And if that's the case, then I suppose I'm all for it. But as you say, it makes for quite odd, fairly kind of downbeat occasionally sections of his press conferences, set against how positive he tends to be. It's a shame not to see Gregory come through. Obviously, we had Iorfa take part in an under-23s game this week as well, played an hour. Mm-hmm. So we might get some of those more familiar faces come through, but then the defence has been by and large really, really good. So it's sort of it's tricky to. I mean, you wouldn't want to not include Iorfa, but at the same time, I feel like he needs to work to get in there.
Yeah, and I mean that's an interesting thing. I mean, I don't want to. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here, Rich. I don't want to do that a great deal, for the nature of what we do on the podcast and the format we have. But I thought it was interesting when the subs who did come on. I mean, some interesting substitutions today. The first one I liked, which we'll get onto later, Canberry coming on for Berahino. I thought that was good. But then it's kind of interesting to see a mentality of we're going to bring defenders on for precautions, but also maybe it feels like we're trying to give them some minutes as well.
Possibly, yeah. I don't know. I'd be interested to hear what the kind of overall plan was in terms of those substitutions.
Well, the funny thing with that also was like, again, kind of football terminology and things that we look at. But Rob O'Neill was saying, was surprised to not see Iorfa come on, for one of the final substitutions. Obviously, we had the weird thing, like we'll get onto later. We had a fourth sub, didn't we, because of concussion?
Again, yeah.
But he was saying, about Iorfa not coming on, said, oh, well, maybe it's the whole thing of being around the squad for him right now. Yeah. Which is funny, because it kind of makes sense, but it also kind of just sounds like horseshit. Like, what? Well, I mean, like, what magical fumes do you get from sitting on the bench at Hillsborough?
Oh, probably a lot of, like, deep heat or icy hot type fumes, I imagine. Tiger balm.
I mean, me and you have done a couple of stadium tours at Hillsborough in our day. We didn't get the chance to go down and sit on the bench. Like maybe now we would go down, sit on the bench and be like, ooh, what's this? Ooh, I'm smelling something that's making me feel rejuvenated. And then whoever's doing the tour was like, yep. And then we'd say, what's that? And he would tap his nose and being like, maybe
hello. It smells like Team Spirit down there, Luke. I wonder because I suppose the thing is, Iorfa is a particular type of defender. I could see him coming on and be disruptive in a way that the players that were drafted in weren't.
Well, I mean, when looking at that subs bench, the subs bench, I mean, we had so who did we have again? Let me look at this. Obviously, we got Wildsmith. We had Canberry. We got who else can I bring up while I'm just building? We got Jaden Brown, Iorfa, Gibson, and Brennan, right? I think that's it from my recollection. Yeah. So when I'm looking at that, I mean, the only thing that kind of got me kind of excited by that was seeing Iorfa back. Was like, it's kind of weirdly maybe getting a bit selfish with this here, but if there's a slight niggle, maybe to maybe take it off Mr. Barry Banner as a precaution or something along those lines. Not like a serious injury, but maybe that. Maybe we get to see Big Dom roll out the monster truck tires.
Oh,
I mean, you thought the pitch was screwed. You just wait until Mr. Iorfa just chews through it like a broken combine harvester.
Yeah, I think probably looking back, bringing Brennan on at the right wing back slot instead of Iorfa was a bit odd, given that he definitely has played probably about half of his career as a right back, Iorfa, whereas Brennan, as far as I'm aware, is not really a full back of any note.
Yeah, I mean, they said that, but then I was naturally thinking, and I don't know, I mean, you'd probably want Dominic Iorfa to be... Is everything okay there, Rich? I hear a lot of...
Yeah, it's good. Sorry. I was just getting slightly distracted. Go on.
You were playing with a notepad, was that?
It's just something fallen. I've got a bag of driving goodies, and something had sort of slipped down. So I was just rejigging slightly, but it ended up being quite loud. A bit like when you try to sort of eat your sweets in the cinema and it goes quiet. You know, you're watching something reassuringly nice and noisy, like Fast and the Furious, and suddenly it's some sort of romantic, quiet, ponderous moment. The moment you try and open your bag of eclairs. Anyway, sorry. Many apologies.
Sorry, I didn't know he was going to say that they're all family. I just thought it'd be a good time for this chocolate eclair. Eclair, not chocolate eclair. Yeah. No, I think that's it. Okay. Let's get stuck into it. Much like Sheffield Wednesday did in this home game against Charlton, and Johnny Jackson leading out his wheelies.
Yeah.
And, interesting that we've got to this stage of the season. You know, we played the first game against Charlton, and we thought that's a good point against a team who should be doing well in this league and a tip to do well. And they were being absolute dog shit this season. And guess what? Cool. They were fucking shit today, weren't they? They were a bad side.
Yeah. Yeah, I would be very, very disappointed if I travelled to see that kind of a performance from my team.
And it makes me think back to kind of the League One rivalry and... you know, and it seemed to kind of, much like Brighton against Wednesday, there seems to have been a weird kind of online mini ruckus that's been kind of cycled up between supportive, you know, waging war on the forums of the internet.
Yeah, we had the Chris Powell
bar swinging crossbar challenge. Can you be a dickhead, Chris, on this crossbar? Yes, I can.
Yes, you can. Yeah, it's interesting. It's also, I mean, Gunter sort of stands out on the, and then interestingly, their subs I knew better than their first. Not that me knowing the name of a player or not is a benchmark of how good they are, but like it was interesting because Stockley has caused us real problems in the past, and he didn't make the starting lineup. Lecco is someone that we were linked with and has a bit of a kind of some prestige to his past, although it's probably fairly faded at this stage. So you're sort of looking at it was interesting to sort of see like what I would say is their big names or their better players, some of their better players on the bench. I don't know the story behind that, whether they're not in good form, are they, leading up to this game?
No, and I think they do have some centre forward. I think they've got a few injury problems, but I mean that's hilarious in comparison to Sheffield Wednesday, obviously, because it doesn't really lay a glove on our kind of records.
No.
But then I mean, like, you know, Stockley coming on was like making me think, oh, you know, Stockley's had fun times against us before.
Yes.
And I mean, I thought, to talk about Charlton a little bit, I thought Elliot Lee looked quite useful. Elliot Lee's always been a player that's been quite good, and I think he's done fairly well against us in history.
Yeah.
For Luton, so
I could see that. Yeah.
You know, there's that, but I mean, outside of that, just not particularly good side. And I mean, I think we really we just absolutely went at them from the off, didn't we?
We did. I mean, this is in terms of sort of analysis and things. In some ways, there's weirdly not a huge amount to. This was a very, very straightforward game in a way that not many games of football are, or particularly games of Sheffield Wednesday football are. Like, there was very little. We pretty much had our way start to finish. This could have been a real fill your boots sort of situation, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe if the pitch was a little bit nicer, if we'd had a bit more luck and things. It just was, anytime we pushed forward, we seemed to make great chances, and I thought they had a few let-offs as well. But as you say, that was from the off. We really started off.
You know, I didn't.
Patterson. Sorry, go on.
No, I didn't even know the situation that happened. Like the beginning of the game, I feel like when I'm watching it from my kind of perspective, and you know, since I haven't seen Sheffield Wednesday in the flesh in 3 and a bit years, I haven't done it while we've been doing this podcast, and this podcast is only going on for 3 years.
It's crazy,
so
isn't it?
It's a long old time. But when I'm kind of watching, you know, via video, I feel like it takes me a little bit to kind of get to grips with the meat of the game going. So I don't even remember like what happened that led to those 2 quick corners we had from the off.
I think that was Patterson. I think he just really outmuscled one of their players fairly convincingly very early on. I just remember I just thought like Patterson was going to have quite a fun day today. Just they looked terrified of him, and he seemed to just have the number of pretty much every one of their defenders that he stood against. They were playing a 3 at the back. So I think he kind of I think he maybe won a header and then had a deflected shot. I think that's what happened to lead to the corners.
Right. Because I know the 4th minute, that kind of was the chance which obviously led to the goal, which is actually on my first note as well. So Hunt put a cross in, which is scooped up by one of the Addict defenders. And who says white men can't jump? As Patterson just got so high in the air to head one, you know, pretty much straight at the keeper. But that was the point where, you know, the referee pulled it back because, you know, Hunt was fouled, which I didn't really see. I'm going to be honest.
Bit of a naughty tackle, I thought. He was pretty late and a bit wild.
The referee was a bit strange today, wasn't he?
He was a bit odd. I don't know when it happened in the timings. I suppose I could check on Flash Score. When did Palmer get booked, and what was he booked for?
That was a weird booking. So, I can tell you a bit with my notes about the narrative of what I think about that. I'll come to that later.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. So Baz then steps up, curved one in, and Byers just stands there and flicked it behind him deftly into the corner of the net. 1-0.
Was really good, wasn't it? But Bannon had done a fairly poor set piece and then an okay set piece. Was it that way around? when did he put the corner straight into the side netting? He did 1 per half. I can't remember whether that was his first corner or whether that was later, if that was after the goal.
I felt like it happened a lot, even though maybe it only happened twice. But it just felt like it was something that they kept trying to do, and I didn't get it again. I've never gotten
with that
like
front post. But
well, last time round he was obsessed with the back post, wasn't he?
I know. But this was a good delivery in, and Byers sort of gambled on it, or was in the right place, and flicked it over his head into the far corner, and. Great start. It's so on Wednesday to grab that early goal and give ourselves a platform to work from early on. Yeah, really,
and then
go on.
Just so early, you know, early to score, and it's so unconventional, and you know sometimes it typically is. Sorry, Karen. Yeah.
No, this is, I suppose I should say it because it's very important. I hadn't finished my bovril yet when we scored, and that was... It's always a danger of taking a hot drink at the match that you don't get to finish it before something big happens. And, we scored before I'd finished my lovely drink, sipping gravy.
Did you manage to chuck your sipping gravy?
I lobbed it. You know, like people lob pints now. I just lobbed my bovril up in the air.
I also really appreciated you calling it a sipping gravy, like a sipping whiskey.
Yeah,
I just enjoy any opportunity I get to think of Richard Miller, everybody, as a Southern gentleman. and you know, maybe that's an excuse for Rich to do his
a beautiful little glass of bovril, please, little lady.
Just another opportunity for Rich to do his Daniel Craig and Knives Out impersonation as well.
Yeah. That'll do for now, I think.
But anyway, to connect those points, because I mean, that's a weird thing. Like, I almost feel like I'm kind of like, it was a great goal, 1-0, fantastic. But everything about this game just feels so like matter of fact.
I know.
And kind of just gloriously dull.
Do you know what it reminded me of?
Mm.
A classic Gary Monk second half. Do you remember those boring Gary Monk second halves? Just ride it out. Nothing really bothering us. We can go and get another goal if we need it. Easy peasy. But you could just switch off if needs be. If you've got something to do, if you've got errands to run.
Yeah. I mean, like saying getting a third goal would be like, you know, I could nip to the shop and get myself a Kit Kat Chunky. But
yes.
I'm kind of quite settled here, you know.
Yeah, I'm comfy.
To bridge together, to knit together that piece is about yellows. So I do want to get into, there's some stuff to say. The 8th minute, Story did very, very well not to get a yellow. After, Charlton are breaking, the ball is going out, and he just basically decided to needlessly kick Elliot Lee out of touch. I thought in a weird way, we can get onto this, but I feel like some way there's a couple of bits of retribution. But anyway, 12th minute, there's a good counter from a corner that Charlton did, and then we relied on Palmer, did really well to dispossess surging Elliot Lee.
Was that the one where Bannon was herring after him and completely missed him? Yes. Yeah. He went for his big diving slide tackle and missed him by miles.
Yeah. Well, glad because that could have been a yellow incident.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He also looked like he'd run out of puff by the time Bannon went in for the tackle. Like I thought, Palmer did really nicely to tidy it up, but he sort of looked like I was wondering where he was going to come off after that, because he looked, I don't know, he just slowed down so immediately.
Well, the guy had like a really good surge of pace, and to break from basically them countering, I mean, what's his name? McGillsbury?
Oh, yeah.
He was the goalkeeper. You know, he bowled it out from outside the box to counter from them. And it was pretty much all Lee, just running basically 70, 80 yards of the pitch.
Yes.
Like, fair play. I mean, most people would be knackered at that stage. I think there's something you've got to look to, basically, maybe, you know, the top tier of English football, to look at players who've got the stamina to do something like that.
I suppose it wasn't so much how that he looked knackered. It was more the fact, like, he sort of like I was almost expecting, you know, when somebody gets like a hamstring injury, because it's like that rapid.
Yes.
Drop in pace. So, like, you're running full pelt, and then suddenly you're like, oh, he's now going about a quarter of that speed. And I know Bannon went in for that tackle, but I don't know that he made any contact with him that would have excused it. But maybe it was just enough of a jostle, I thought, for him to maybe have injured himself. But he played played fine through the rest of the game. I think he was substituted later, maybe. But yeah, that was a bit of a warning sign, wasn't it? I think it sort of showed us that they did have some threat that they were carrying.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, it could have weirdly been one of those games where you find out that, this is a team which is largely looking pretty lame, but somehow manages to score a goal or two, which doesn't discount great swathes of League One. To be honest with you, even some of the chaff in the mid table that we've seen and been up against, that is a possibility. But I mean, they didn't really create a great deal for themselves. Speaking of creating chances, 28th minute, Barry Bannon. So close from him. You know, we just did great work to pick it up outside the box, create some space by jinking around, got it onto his left, and curled it just wide.
Just 28th minute. Yeah. It was. He had a funny game, Bannon, because obviously, so the corners were by and large really bad. But then the free kick was really good. And then he went really close with that opportunity, but he was doing some odd things. He had a couple of like crossfield passes that just absolutely fell like halfway short, not even like close to being right. And a better team really could have punished us for those, because we just sort of handed possession to them when we were out of shape for it. And then he played a couple of weird, just like I suppose these are the things when you marvel in them when they work, but when it doesn't work, it looks really poor that you've just kind of flicked a ball around the corner without looking. And he just did that a few too many times, I thought, really. Again, if it was a more potent kind of midfield attacking threat from Charlton, we might have put ourselves in trouble a couple of times. I'm sure a player like him, that he is so much about finesse, I'm sure the pitch being bobbly probably affects him more than other players. You know, I could sort of imagine Che Dunkley, for whatever reason, but just kind of relishing trudging about in the mud, because it's kind of like that lower end football. That's life, really, when you're kind of in non-leagues and things like that. Whereas Bannon will have really only played on pitches like this in cup matches, by and large. Anyway, there we go. I'm sort of moaning a little bit, but also giving him an excuse.
Following that, Charlton made the substitution, didn't they? They were forced into a change.
So that was the concussion sub, wasn't it?
Yes, that's the case.
After the fact, because he got checked. He was checked for a long time, and it was Berahino that went into him, wasn't it? I don't really know how the clash happened, but I can only think he was the only one that would have counted for the concussion sub. But he played on for a bit and then came off, and that must have been the one, I think, that was the concussion substitution. So it's the right back that changed, is that right? Or the right-sided centre-back?
I think that is the case. I mean, I also got a mild note where he said, I thought that Rob called him Jay Cena. So I was wondering if John Cena was coming on the pitch. But Jay Simi, I think is his name. He had I think he was number 7. So I guess it was kind of like a right kind of change for that. I mean, he came on for Matthews. Okay, Matthews was essentially their right wing back. Okay, so it's a similar deal, with that kind of substitution. 34th minute, Berahino touched it off well for Hunt, who whipped it in. Patterson couldn't quite get there. We got the corner. Yeah. That corner, I wasn't quite sure entirely what happened. I think we played it short and we somehow cycled it to Marvin Johnson just outside the box.
Yes, yeah.
Who hit it like a missile. He really connected with that one.
He did. Yeah.
Deflected wide. That was a good chance. But then, again, we had a corner. That was the pour and behind near post
That's
corner.
The one. Right, yes. Yeah,
probably the one you remember most from your recollection.
He did that in the second half as well at the other end. He just went straight into the side netting. Oh, dear. It's weird. It's weird how poor he is at those, to be honest. Anyway.
You got time for a little Luke Piff and Vinegar bit?
Oh, always.
Always. Oh, thank you, sir. So I said, we're on the beach for most of this game. And it's Hillsborough Beach for most of this game, as the pitch is dreadful. Expecting post-match celebrations to include Baz and Elsie Bannon making sandcastles and getting Uncle Pato to hod carry water.
Burying Liam Palmer. I think he wants to start a volunteer.
Giving Liam Palmer some nogs in sand.
Yeah. Oh, he'd make a beautiful mermaid. He really would.
So, to cut out of that and cut back to the narrative about yellow cards and Sheffield Wednesday players, Patterson was upset and vying for a yellow after conceding a very, very soft free kick. He booted the ball away and somehow our yellow protection spell continues. I thought he would have got a yellow for that. I mean, in terms of consistency, I've seen referees. I know, not that, but I thought that the foul was incredibly soft.
I thought the foul was a real joke because that was that's the sort of area of the crowd I'm in. It was very close to me, that one, and I thought the guy got beat and just fell over. I could see his frustration. You're right, though, for kicking the ball away. I'm amazed he didn't get a yellow. And he was, I'm sure he was calling the linesman and the ref all sorts of friendly nicknames as well. Like he spent double shouting at the ref and the linesman. But yeah, he did tremendously well to escape a yellow there.
Mm-hmm. Maybe in his Scottish parlance, he wasn't talking about the job they were doing, but the fact they were jobbies. I would possibly.
Or there's a little note circulated that he's so Scottish, they do use the C word more liberally up there. You know, it's just like hello. C unit is Scottish for hello. Please don't penalise him or Barry Bannon.
Did you call it C unit? Like a
C unit, yes.
Is that 50 cent Scottish rap group?
Yes, yeah. Did you see his fat head nearly popping at the Super Bowl halftime show?
Well, because he was all upside down, right?
He was upside down, and he looked really like swollen and uncomfortable.
I missed the whole narrative surrounding. Wasn't there a lot of criticism put towards Curtis Jackson's way because he's a bit chunky these days?
He's a big boy.
He's a big boy, but I mean, he's also
muscle.
like he's still pretty muscly big boy. I mean, you know, the guy's not rocking a six pack, but he's still pretty well built out, I'd say. I don't know. I heard there was some contentiousness about that, and he got some slack on the socials.
No, I think he's. I mean, steroids can really help with these things, but no, he's still.
While we're talking about the halftime show at the Super Bowl, because this has been much delayed.
Yes, yeah.
Why did Mary J. Blige get 2 songs?
Oh, there's no other women, so she had to represent all of womankind.
Was it okay? Well, was it the whole thing that like she actually had some songs to sing because they had no one else who was actually like a vocalist? Everyone else was just a rapper. But it's just like you've got all these hip hop heavyweights, and they all get 1 song, and then Mary J. Blige gets 2 songs. Just felt a bit off, personally.
Yeah, I mean it's feminism gone mad, isn't it? The worst thing you can do is a middle-aged man in this world. It's
sure,
I'm
sure
the rap super producers that are the real victims.
Oh, and they don't make quite enough money, do they? Let's be honest.
Just in terms of Fiddy and his builtness, I do remember there was a wrestler called Mark Henry who had previously been the world's strongest man, and at one point he was being criticised by a foe, and he said, "How come your pecs go all the way around your back?" Which it's kind of the build that Fiddy is in at the moment. He's kind of like, there's a lot of chonk in there, and I'm sure some of it's nice hard muscle, but there's a lot of chunky business in there. There's a lot of I don't know. There's lots of chips and gravy to go on them bones. Anyway, what were we talking about? Football, Sheffield Wednesday.
Football, the other football, yes.
Yes, the real one, yes, where they actually do kick it most of the time.
I'd love it if 50 Cent loved chips and gravy. And specifically, actually, like...
Find me after the club, I'm going to... in the chippy. I'm going to have my peas and they're going to be mushy.
Let's go back to football. Let's go back to talking about the bizarre tale of the Yellows, which I don't think even some of the greatest fictional detectives could work out of our time. I don't think Hercule Poirot would have a good idea on this one. Palmer, that's when he bizarrely got a yellow on the 42nd minute. That was soft. That was really soft. It was a free kick. He was being a bit handsy. But it was nothing that made me think this is a yellow situation. I was wondering, I said maybe Palmer gets it for Patterson and Story's misgivings.
Maybe.
I got worried from that free kick from that position. But then
yes,
I should remember that Charlton are Tosh. And they managed to get some, we managed to get some generous offsides, I think. There were a lot of situations where Charlton were offside, where they were kind of building an attack up, and it's like, oh, what happened? Oh, Charlton are offside. Like
offside, yeah.
Okay.
No, I was worried that looked like the sort of typical Wednesday kind of time to concede and the sort of set piece to concede from. Yeah. I remember the set piece, but I don't remember the foul at all. And I don't remember him getting a yellow for it. I don't know whether something distracted me. Maybe something was falling out of my bag that I didn't have a bag with me at the match. I'm only kidding. Just being stupid. What's next, Luke?
Rich was, I do declare I am out of my sipping gravy.
Out of my sipping gravy. I'm going to have to go move along the road to a hot Vimto.
Did he do hot Vimto?
They had it listed on the thing. I think I might dip into that next time.
That sounds good.
I do love that unique blend of herbs and spices.
How many herbs and spices are there in Vimto's classic?
I would hope there's at least 13, because I think they've got to beat the Colonel, really, haven't they?
Yeah. the other Colonel Vimto gonna fucking beat that Sanders. How dare he with them 7 herbs to fucking have him, bastard. And then Richard Miller.
And then
45th minute. And just like that, maybe Carrie Bradshaw would say, Wednesday 2-0 up. Just what we need at the time. I was considering the half to be a weird one, and one of those games when maybe we scored too early. But I think we're all kind of brought out of our slight nap-like stupor.
Yes.
In a situation where, it was about the halfway circle, Barry Bannon had the ball, played out to Luongo. Luongo had a fair bit to do. His back was kind of the goal. He kind of swiveled it round, and I probably need to go back and watch it again because I can't quite recap the action mass magic that he brought. But so he brought it forward. I can't recall if he took it past a player. Maybe he wasn't being challenged, but then he did the most delicious, delightful through ball I think I've seen in a while. I'm going to be honest.
Yes.
Beauty of a through ball for Marvin Johnson. Johnson there on the wing, just kind of stroked it across. And straight to the middle for Patterson, who slid in. Wonderful. I even thought at the time, like from the angle I had behind it, I wondered if it was an own goal at first.
Right. Okay.
But no, I think that was just a...
Yeah. Sorry. Berahino and Patterson were just so desperate to get on the end of it. It was really, really good. And Johnson is just... He's playing such beautiful football at this point in time. His crosses are just delicious. Again, he just put so many good balls into the box today. It's really, really lovely to see. But that Luongo through ball and the fact that the Charlton defender was just like, if he hadn't cut his toenails this week, he might have got a touch on it. He might have blocked it. He was so close, so agonisingly close to it, but he didn't get it, and it rolled through to Johnson. But there's a few times where he had to really book it to get on the end of some through balls today, Johnson, and it just really lovely to see. He's so desperate to get on the ball. He's so desperate to make things happen. It's really heartening to watch, and a great goal, another great kind of counter-attacking break. That's turning into a real strength of ours is breaking on teams and just unleashing Marvin Johnson to put a cross in.
So I must say at the time, because of what was happening with the other results, I was looking at this. I mean, we've been thick in the hunt for that top 6 spot, for a position in this top 6 for a while now. And the beauty of that situation was Wycombe were winning at the time. They were 2-1 up away at Accrington. Things changed there. We'll get into that later, just as a general maybe recap of things.
Yeah.
Us scoring that second goal at that time took us up. We were level with points at that point in time in the live table. But the second goal meant we had a 1 goal greater goal difference than Wycombe. Right. So that actually took us to 6 in the table, where I think we pretty much remained there with everything else changing around us in the football. But it was a sweet little moment to look at, considering it's been something we've been desperate for, getting in that top 6.
And nice to hear Darren Moore after the game to sort of spiral forward a little bit, talking about, we can't be satisfied with just that. We need to keep pushing on, because I do think there's some danger that you kind of like, while you're in that chase, you're like, oh, nice, we are now top 6. Nice, pat ourselves on the back. But we can't afford that kind of thinking, I don't think.
No, I mean, the thing with this is to look at that now. I'll just kind of jump ahead and look at this. We've got 2 games. I mean, we're a couple of points ahead of Plymouth, who same situation in terms of matches played. We've got 2 games in our hand on basically the people above us. So Oxford, Sunderland, and MK Dons at a push, who are all on 35. So win at least one of those, and things look quite different. But I'm really getting ahead of myself, aren't I?
We're table gazing, but it's not even half. It's only just half time. No, it's not even half time.
I know, but I mean, I don't know at this point. I mean, to score early on, maybe for playing a team like Charlton, for how shonky they are.
Yeah, they're
generally. Probably it's pretty hard for them in a bad run of form to be 1-0 down so early on in the game. And then for us to score before half-time, it's pretty much just putting the thing to sleep, isn't it, really?
And we were unlucky not to get another one. I mean, we could easily have got another. The incident where sort of Jack Hunt had a couple of efforts at it, that was, that could have easily gone another way. They really, weirdly, they were quite lucky a couple of times, because I think Patterson did a great job of closing them down while they were passing it around at the back. And they were just lucky that the ricochet went back to them. And if it had gone beyond them, they would have been in real trouble. There was also an incident. I'm too far. I'm jumping a gun a little bit, but are we at half-time, would you say, Luke?
We're at half-time now. That brings us pretty much to half-time. I mean... Yeah,
a really important time to score. A strange, scrappy game in between the 2 really good goals. The pitch is really not helping. The pitch is going to be... There'll be matches where we come away feeling like the pitch has robbed us of results. I would suspect between now and the end of the season, it's really shoddy. And it's not... There's no kind of fix for things at this stage, because you can't put new turf on. That takes too long to bed in. And we've got so many games thick and fast between now and the end of the season. But today we rode that really well. And particularly the first, so it added to the scrappy weirdness of the most of the first half, but our goals were our signs of quality and rising above that. Sorry, I cut you off. No,
I haven't. I have nothing much to add. Just let me know when we're going to get going on the second half, my friend.
Whenever.
Oh, let's do it. Second half, Jaden Stockley comes on for Charlton. My note is Rutro. Knowing that he's a big sodden lump.
Preston, wasn't it? Preston, he absolutely changed the game previously against us. And I think Hutchinson was at the back in that game as well, if memory serves. So I similarly had and we also, it lets us know that they are going to change the way they've been playing. They were trying to play through the middle, sort of go through the phases, whereas with Stockley on, it was just long ball. Everything was long from the back. Thankfully,
which is hilarious, because I mean we completely dominate the middle of the park. I mean, you can say what you want about some of the characters and some of the best players. You can jump forward ahead, or you can even do it around Christmas time for the half-season kind of season review and pick your top 11 of League One. Fair enough, there may be better individual characters than in the middle, but I must say, midfield centre-free partnership, it doesn't get any better.
So good.
Half-time I was messaging my oldest brother Andy, because he was at the game, and I was checking in with him, and he was there, and I was just being like, it was just nice he hasn't seen a lot of Wednesday, and probably the Wednesday he's seen hasn't been particularly fantastic this season, because we haven't covered ourselves in much glory on TV. So it's good to just say to him, hey, what do you think of Byers? How good is Byers? Marvin Johnson's mint, isn't he? All this type of stuff. But
That's nice.
it's nice to have that conversation. But I mean, I said to him, I said, I mean, for some of maybe the defense has been strong, despite the fact that it's kind of still been a little bit of patched up together.
Yes, yeah.
In recent times, but I mean, and also then we have had a few kind of questions for the kind of striking options right now. But the thing I wanted to say was, I said that midfield five, if you're including Hunt and Johnson, as part of that, is really carrying us through any degree of creakiness we have elsewhere in the pitch.
You're right.
And he was just agreeing
because,
and saying, we were just completely bossing it, overrunning them in the middle of the park.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right, because we've survived a cobbled together defense and a non-existent attack at times. Like it's really that group that have stood out and made things happen. No, it's a great observation.
And I mean, for the sake of that, let's just think of that from a goal perspective today. I mean, Byers has rocked up with chipped in with a few goals recently. I mean, he's had has he had 3 or 4 goals? It's been an impressive little haul for this spell he's had coming back into the contention of thinking of a first team player.
There must be 3, is it? But yeah.
I think so, yeah. Bannon set that one up, and then I mean, if you're looking at it from the wing perspective, you just need some live bodies up front, really. For some of the stuff that Marvin Johnson's putting in, and maybe sometimes on sporadic occasions, what Hunt is feeding into the picture, but really the person who's the star of the show is Marvin Johnson. There, we maybe don't really need some of our first team striking options to maybe grab a goal or two,
I think Johnson just seems to be so good at he engineers the situations and then kind of picks a path through. Even if their defense is well set up, he kind of seems to be able to find our man in the midst, which is a real impressive trait to have. But Byers is an absolute revelation. We couldn't, of all the things that were going to happen this second half of the season, nobody could have foresaw the sort of turnaround he's had since he's come back in the team.
Lord, no. Yeah.
And I think probably he's not quite as good defensively as Luongo. He's not quite as good going forward as Bannon. But he's a pretty good second in both of those positions and in both of those sort of frames of reference. And that's a really nice addition to have, a guy that can kind of go, do you know what, Luongo, we're getting a bit overwhelmed. I can get back and I can help. I can make some tackles. I can read some balls and pick things out. And Bannon, you're struggling. I'm going to come forward. And Luongo at times, but Luongo was actually on the front foot more today than he's been in several weeks. But just, he seems to see when other people are starting to struggle and just work his way in to help and provide an option. It's really lovely to see the way he's just a great teammate to have. He's just, it's you kind of have empathetic people. He's like the footballing equivalent of an empath. He's he can see before you're struggling, he can see the situation is going to get difficult for you. You're going to want an out ball. You're going to want another body to help you out defensively. And he puts himself there. So it feels like he's everywhere because he picks his moments so well. And a goal threat as well. He scored a header now, a volley, and a goal from distance. That's a nice combination of goals to have got. Yeah. And you do sort of, you feel comfortable when he's in possession. You feel comfortable when he's on the ball. Really nice to see. Yeah, what a great turnaround from him. What did you make of Berahino today?
Berahino I think he had a few moments that were kind of valid. I think that, we know that we have strikers that aren't exactly the full complete package, and I think that's fine if other players step up or we utilize the games that they do have. So I think it was probably not the worst that we didn't see the whole thing from Berahino today, but we can afford to have that. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I
But I mean, he had some
he was
useful
a willing
times and
runner.
useful touches.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. Sorry, willing runner, like you said.
I just, it's just to go back to him sort of retrospectively, his touch to set Marvin Johnson away last week was just unbelievable. I sort of missed that in the run of things, but that flick he did on the right in front of the two sort of managerial teams, the boxes there, was so gorgeous last week. That's something special. There's not many players can do that, and that's what's making me think. In addition to the goal, I think he took his goal well. I think he has got a part to play in this because he's the only striker at the club. We've got attackers, we've got forwards. He's the only striker. I probably would like to use him more sparingly than I think Darren Moore is going to over the next few weeks, because obviously he likes him a lot on a personal level. But I do think there's a usefulness as a part for him to play, even if, like today, I think he was an additive, even though he didn't really have many huge moments to himself. But I thought him sort of breaking his back, wanting to get that same chance as Patterson was big. And there's a couple of frustrating moments where things could have gone for him and didn't quite. And it was offside several times. But I was interested to see what you thought of his spell. Where are we in terms of incidents in the second half? What do you know?
We haven't even got started yet. I was about to say, if you think that Rich and I are talking about this like it is a formality, and that there isn't much of a second half, and we finished and concluded the game, it's almost like there is, effectively. And I mean, also we're different gravy. We're much like Sheffield Wednesday. We don't really do second halves particularly well.
No.
So anyway, I've got some notes. So 54th minute, even though we're singing the praise of Marvin Johnson, probably the weakest moment of the game, he gave the ball away.
Yes.
Luckily, we didn't concede.
Yeah.
So he kind of dawdled with it in possession just on the outside of our box. I wasn't sure who it was, but then, they took a shot which didn't really worry Peacock Farrell too much from that.
He had very little to do today, Bailey Peacock Farrell, but did everything he had to do really well.
Yes.
Including he made a couple of saves once the whistle had been blown. I always think those are like psychologically important moments. He made a good save down low when a offside was called at one point. This was just a good no-nonsense save from him. It was a pretty hard shot. It was straight at him, and he just dealt with it, no bother at all. Stockley was fuming not to have been played through. I saw that.
Which is good, because he seems like a player who seems to be moaning. And it's also kind of fun to see an opposition player not working for them with a strop on. That's always fun.
Yeah.
We went from a break as well, as a pithy comment here. Nothing comes from it, but Barry Bannon was jockeying across the park. A stray Wednesdayite behind the camera in the commentary team went, fucking hell, Bannon. Rob O'Neill perfectly stated after that there was a wealth of encouragement across Hillsborough.
Lovely.
56 minute, we break, and Patterson rolled it across, but it was cut out. From there, I'm getting a bit lazy now, but I said there's a lot of play from there on. Eventually led to Baz picking out a great through ball to find Hunt on the wing.
Oh, yeah.
He did a cross that was cut out for a corner, and then another corner with nothing happening as well.
Was that the header across that was closed?
No, we still got that to come.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So that's fine. Well, that's actually the next point, actually. So 60th minute, actually. So that's the next note. Bannon floated across him. Patterson did really well to head it back down and the cross. Johnson was running in there, but it was dispossessed. Someone just got there just got there,
yeah.
Which was a real shame, because I'd love to see Marvin Johnson just crack one in from close range.
Yeah.
Great moment in the middle of the park where Patterson absolutely goes for it in the tackle. The ball is still there, and then he absolutely mullered it again to get to the next one. My note is, you beautiful OT warrior. And I'm going to call it, Rich. If I was a woman, I'd totally be into Callump Patterson.
Oh yeah, all day. I'm into him now.
Good. I'll join you with that in solidarity.
I do wonder if he would get more decisions from referees if he dyed his hair. I think they think he's an old man bullying children because of his grey locks. I wonder if he got a bit of just for men, whether he'd get a little bit more play from the referees. But no, I'm wholeheartedly with you on that one.
Not much notes to think this off. I mean, we're both patersexuals. Let's just call that there.
Yes.
Here for some OT Scottish love.
We'll flex for Callump.
We'll flex for Callump. 70th minute, Berahino went off for Canberry. I thought that was a nice sub. I liked it. I thought it was, having someone in Canberry trying to come on, just running around and be a bit of a pain in the backside. I think is nice to let Charlton know we're not finished and we can still duff them up a bit more.
Yes.
The 71st minute after then, I'm not entirely sure what happened, but basically they had a pretty free header which kind of tested Peacock Farrell, and he did very well with it.
Yeah.
But then the referee blew for something, and they had the ball in the net, which afterwards, which was it's one of those. Well, we've already blown for a stop and play, so who knows whether it would have been worrying. But I felt that was a bit of a let off because I didn't know what the officials saw. To be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that might have been another offside. As you say, we had a few favourable, favourable Charlton offsides, didn't we? But again, that was a great save by Bailey Peacock Farrell. In the end, he didn't need to make it, but it was a great save down low from that header. Mm-hmm. It's interesting with Berahino going on. So I thought that was a good sub to make. Just
me too.
Something a bit different, isn't it? And Canberry's got his uses. He's an odd fish, but he's got his uses.
Yes, indeed. 74th minute, Hutchinson went on a Cockney waltz again.
He did.
Much like he did a few years ago in a very early episode of Different Gravy.
Yeah.
So it's to people love a callback, but if you don't know what it is, I'll explain it and ruin the joke. And then, so here's an interesting point, Rich. We get a free kick for a handball right on the edge of the area.
Yes.
What did you think of that? Did you think it was a penalty?
There was some contact, wasn't there?
Yeah, and I mean, I wondered if we were maybe in the top tier of English football. Maybe such a thing with ridiculous amount of technology spunked at it is a penalty would be given by the penalty giving machines at VAR, because that's what VAR does. If you don't know, everybody, here's a shorthand primer for VAR. Anything that might be offside is offside, and anything that might be a penalty is a penalty.
Yes. Yeah. There's a tremendous pressure if you're just asked. It's like, oh, you might want to take a look at that, mate. I do think there's a natural human pressure to kind of go, right, that person is telling me I've made a mistake here. So I think you have to be quite a strong person to then go, no, I was right the first time. You're wrong. And not many of them do. Not many of them turn that around. So just to clarify there, do you think that the handling was in the box, or the incident afterwards, the kind of collision that came after that, was the penalty?
Oh, that's an interesting one. I forgot about the incident afterward. I thought it was handling. I was like, I remember thinking that was close. I mean, it was interesting from that angle,
because play rolled on a little bit. And they got the ball, but there was a coming together. The keeper seemed to go through someone in the aftermath as well. I just wondered. I wasn't quite sure what the penalty shout was for, to be honest. So it's interesting that I'll take your sort of point that it was probably the handball rather than the coming together afterwards. Didn't look good for Charlton either way.
No, I will be honest. Following then, the Story got a yellow, which was soft. Maybe in repairing further things, he should have got a yellow from earlier on. Fair enough, but
I thought I was expecting to get a yellow for it. I thought it was one of those where it was needless, but I thought it was a bit cynical. I think it was just totally, we're in a bit of bother, take the foul, so to stop it. I think those should normally be yellow cards. I don't know whether it wasn't heinous, but I do think it falls under that category of professional foul. I wasn't surprised to see it given.
Fair enough.
But each to their own. They don't have VAR for yellow cards, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, what do you think about all the... And then again, let's go back and... we talked about this a little bit ahead. I guess the next note is like weird substitutions.
Yeah, the subs start happening, don't they? Thick and fast. Oh, he likes taking on off, doesn't he? Maybe it's a managing him thing. He doesn't do a lot of work. We've talked previously how he's just kind of like shown the right wing and it's like, right, you've got to look after all of this all the time. So maybe he's just, no point taking excess risks. But he never seems to really slow down. He put a ball in. Well, obviously he won the free kick. He put a cross in previous to that. He had a cutback that was cleared. So he wasn't. It wasn't that his outputs waned at all. But maybe it's just a kind of managing him thing. But I think Gibson. This is where the subs are a bit weird because it shuffled quite a lot of the pack round. So he comes on and takes Palmer's place at the left side of that centre-back trio, and Palmer goes out to the right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Oh, that actually happened before Story. Just in terms of the timeline, that happened before Story's yellow. But anyway, doesn't really matter. And then hot on the heels of Story getting his yellow, Brennan came on for Johnson. Now, Johnson did spend... I don't know whether there was any insight from your kind of TV pictures of it, but Johnson spent quite a long time down injured.
Yes.
At the beginning of the second half. Did that look... Was it a nasty tackle or... The player got booked for it, didn't he?
I'd be honest, I kind of lapsed on that completely. I just remember seeing Johnson down for quite a while. And, the commentary team of O'Neill and Pearson, they said, he's not typically a player who would go down that often. No. So, yeah, a little bit, maybe a touch concerning, perhaps.
But then maybe taking him off was the kind of precautionary thing, not to keep it working beyond any, what was needed. But yeah, that's then so Palmer then plays his third position of the match by coming out to left wing back, and Brennan goes out to right wing back, and that's the moment where potentially we could have maybe seen Iorfa come in at right wing back. Brennan didn't really get much chance to do anything of note, did he?
No, probably not.
Any more notes from your side of things? We're getting towards the end of the match here.
Well, there's just a couple of flurry of things right at the end of the game. I mean, the fourth substitution, a bit of a strange one, but hey, let's get everybody on some minutes. We get that fourth substitution thanks to the concussion. Charlton made 4 substitutions. Yeah. So we got to bring on for Barry Bannon, really right at the death, like 90 plus 3. And he nearly had a moment as well. Some beautiful last minute theatrics with So giving a so-so attempt at lifting it over McGillivray.
Yes. Bannon did go down. So Bannon again went down injured, didn't he? Or he went down for some treatment before he came off. But I don't remember that being attached to any sort of tackle. Yeah, that was McGillivray getting caught out a bit, wasn't it? And Patterson tried to get an effort off and kind of just hit it into the ground.
Just completely miscued it, yeah.
Yeah, and then So picked it up, and his effort was pretty tame as well, to be fair. I think that happens quite often in those situations where you're like, oh, he's out of his box, we've got the ball. but the panic. It's not. It's a very cool head that scores in those situations, and there's not too many of those about, particularly at the third tier of English football.
And then the final note is I wasn't entirely sure how it happened, but Luongo was kind of played in on the angle, and he was there, on the angle against the Charlton keeper, but he pretty much just hit it straight at the Charlton keeper, and that was it.
Yeah, he tried to give him the eyes, didn't he? And it nearly worked. I think Luongo just was like shaping like he was going to play a pass, and then the player got so het up in trying to block the pass that he actually just gave him a clear path through to the goal almost. And Luongo said thank you very much. But a good save by the keeper. He made himself big and managed to block it away. But yeah, a fairly uneventful second half. In some ways, you could say boring, but it's a nice type of boring when you're 2-0 up. It's an enjoyable, warming boring.
I think so. Yeah. I don't know what else to say.
Like comfort food or comfort telly. This was a comforting hold out second half. So yeah, as you say, we've sort of rattled into some of the post match talking points in that the league tables starting to look healthier in the way that we've been hoping and watching for a long time. It'd be interesting once we start ticking off some of those games in hand to see where we go. But it's going to be an interesting job for Darren Moore, I think, with players coming back. I think he's done tremendously well shaping a team out of limited resources, but it's a different sort of job when you've got harder decisions to make. You've got some actual decisions to make.
Yes.
That's where we've seen that tendency to make chop and change for the sake of it, put people in weird positions for the sake of it. I don't want to say that the substitutions at the end of the game felt a bit like echoes of that, but you could, if you were being churlish, say it felt a lot more like early season Darren Moore, those sort of just chopping and changing and moving people around. And it didn't hurt us at all. It didn't open the door to Charlton, but what if they had gone and grabbed a goal? They had a penalty shout of their own. I don't know whether you made anything of that Gibson handled the ball in the box.
I thought that was weak. Was it Gibson or was it Story? It looked like Story to me. I
thought it was Gibson.
I could be wrong completely, but I didn't think much of it. It was a bit like, I don't know, I didn't think it was much of a... It was like the penalty decision last week. I didn't think there was much to it,
Yeah, but that's one of those things where, what if they had got that penalty, if they'd managed to put us under the cosh a bit, making Liam Palmer play 3 different positions in 10 minutes seems like a ludicrous thing to do. But it all worked out, so there's no point sort of fighting imaginary battles. There's more than enough battles in a season. So we normally pick out a star man or a standout player and maybe some people that deserve an honourable mention. Where are you leaning in that regard for this game?
Johnson. I don't really think there's anyone else I can really focus on. I mean, overall, it's a relatively, decent game throughout from everybody. It's no one's less than a 7. There's a few, might sprinkle an 8 in there, but I think that 8 probably belongs to Marvin Johnson.
And then in terms of honourable mentions, probably the goal scorers for me, I would say, deserve a nod in that regard. I think it would be lovely if I'm right on this. I also don't want to kind of call it too early, but I feel like Patterson looked a lot better. I think this is the best he's played in a long, long time. And I think the goal last match has done him good. He scored again, which is really fantastic. If he was able to hit a bit of a purple patch between now and the end of the season and because he's somebody we talked about potential. Everyone was very excited about Windass, but we also thought Patterson got a good amount of goals last season and has not really lived up to that this year. It would be a huge help if between now and the end of the season he's able to really enforce himself on games in the way that we thought he might do previously. And today, that he looked like that player that we were expecting to just unleash on this league again, and hopefully we get to see some more of that. Anything else do you think for today's episode, Luke?
No, I think that covers it. I mean, I think we've got a lot of juice out of one pretty comprehensive win and a beautifully boring 3 points.
A beautifully boring 3 points.
I mean, if there's more of these, I'd love some more. If we can get some more, more kind of slow, monotonous, winning football from Sheffield Wednesday against dross, crap opposition, then please give me more, sir. More service, soporific gruel.
Very good. Well, on that note, look after yourselves, folks. It's a wild world out there. DJ Jazzy God has carefully mixed a pandemic straight into World War III. It was seamless. You didn't even see the joins, and then suddenly it's Blue Monday. So yeah, look after yourselves. Be good to one another, and we'll talk again. Thanks very much, Luke. Cheerio.
Have a good one. Bye. Bye.